So before I get into the series, I'm going to give some quick notes on something that's across the board of all the phones. So Samsung debuted their new dynamic OLED screens, and this is something that they said would reduce the blue light significantly. Well, I'll tell you right now, it is completely true. You can now catch up on those Netflix series right before bed without the glare sticking around. Now, in terms of wireless power share, don't expect to try to charge another phone. I don't know why Samsung really pushed on marketing these as being able to charge a friend's phone, but really, in my opinion, that's not something I would use it for. It's kind of a gimmick, because I've tried it. I lose about 20% on my phone to charge a friend's phone by 10%. And honestly, I think I could just do without that whole thing. I think what they should have really focused on, and something that I get a lot of use of, is charging my watch on my phone or my Galaxy Buds. So both of these devices charge really, really quickly, and for 20% charge on my watch, for example, I lose 7 to 8% of battery life on my phone. I think that's an amazing trade-off, especially considering I can charge while the phone is charging, so that I don't have to carry around an extra charger, say for example if I'm traveling or whatever. I can have this plugged in and I can charge without any other chargers, which is just phenomenal. So we're going to start off with the little brother and work our way up. So as you can see over here, we've got the S10e, and we compare the two sizes over here, okay? And as you can see, the S10e is not much smaller than the S10. However, in comparison to the S10 Plus, there's a significant difference, okay? Starting with some of the cool features that I really enjoyed about this phone. The battery life. Battery life on a phone this size, compared to the Pixel 3 or the iPhone 10 or the iPhone 10R for that matter, is actually pretty impressive for the size. I got 5 hours of screen on time. Now your mileage may vary. However, for a size like this, I was very, very impressed. So I went from about 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. continuous usage. Pretty moderate. I'm a pretty moderate user, so I watch a lot of YouTube videos, I use navigation, make lots of phone calls and emails and that type of thing. So I'm a pretty moderate to heavy user. Another really cool thing about this phone is the speed of it. For a small phone, it's very, very snappy. Keeping in mind that it's got 6 gigs of RAM, Samsung packs an amazing amount of RAM in such a small device, and this is something that they're not interested in skimping on. I don't know if it's because they manufacture it so they have a lower cost, but you know what? It's in there, they threw it in there. On top of which, the Antutu benchmark scores, scored way higher than everything else in its segment. It actually lined up perfectly just below the S10 and the S10 Plus. It's also really nice to have a phone without the curved edges. For those of you that really cringe on the notion of dropping your phone on that curved part and just absolutely hating it, you're gonna love this phone. And I'll tell you right now, just because you're getting the smallest of all three, Samsung you're not losing any quality at all. Some of the issues that I did have with it though is the power button. The power button is adjacent to the volume button. So every time I press the power button, I would press the volume up button or volume down button by accident. It doesn't feel very great in the hand. It's something that you kind of have to get used to. However, with a case, it makes a bit of a difference because now it's a little more bulky and the buttons are a little more defined. Another really nice thing about the screen is the edge touches. If you have a problem having accidental touches on the edges, you won't have that issue as much as you do with the S10 or the S10 Plus. So because it's not a curved screen, you will not have that issue virtually not at all. In terms of the fingerprint sensor, it doesn't come with the in-screen fingerprint sensor, but I'm okay with that because honestly, this thing is snappy. It's pretty cool to have an in-screen fingerprint sensor, but it's really more of the novelty because at this point in time, from my experience with the S10 and S10 Plus, it hasn't been very consistent. It's just really cool to have and kind of surprising your friends with that. Otherwise, it snaps right into action as soon as I put my finger on it. and it's very, very reliable. If you missed that feature where you could swipe down on the back to open your quick settings, that's on here. You swipe down, you're right in it. The problem I have with that is since the phone is so small, I accidentally swipe it down every now and then. Especially with a case that well defines the power button, you'll have way less issues. Really cool thing, something that's across the board on all three of the phones, you're not getting any less of a screen than you are other than the screen resolution. The screen quality is excellent. You can compare this to any phone out there and you will be absolutely impressed, especially for the price. So with this phone, good job Samsung. You've definitely joined the ranks well above the iPhone XR or the Pixel 3. Alright guys, on to the S10. Well, let me start with this. There's really no difference between this and the S10 Plus other than the battery life and obviously the size. I'll tell you right now off the bat, I didn't focus too much on this, and honestly I switched my SIM out from this back to the S10 Plus because I didn't see that much of a difference other than the fact that I was getting less battery life, okay? However, the one thing, if this is really a make or break it for you, is the button placement. Because it's a smaller device, the way that Samsung has placed their buttons, the button placement is a little better between even the S10e and the S10 Plus. The reason being is I can push the power button and balance my index finger in between the lower volume button and the Bixby button. So it's a lot easier to power on and power off the device. The size of the phone is very, very comfortable for average size hands. My hands are pretty average, right? It fits in my pocket with a little bit sticking out, but if you're buying a phone for size though, I would probably just go right to the S10e. As predicted, battery life isn't great. In fact, I got an hour less of screen on time in comparison to the S10e, which is crazy, even with regular HD resolution set. This is just another reason to either bite the bullet and get the S10 Plus or go right down to the smallest brother. For the front-facing camera, you guys won't miss the lack of a 3D depth sensor that is on the S10 Plus. It really doesn't make a difference. Selfies come out razor sharp, and this phone is actually pretty great for the casual vlogger. Just make sure to carry a charger around, especially towards the end of the day. Okay, now we've got the S10 Plus. I know this is what most of you guys have been waiting for, so let's get right into it. In terms of the screen video quality, obviously you are getting top-notch video quality. In fact, this is the device that I chose for myself because I watch a lot of content and I love watching videos on this device. Now, in terms of the screen cutout, it's a little bigger than the S10, okay? But to be honest, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. You can see I have a wallpaper that kind of shows it off, okay? Because I love it. It actually looks really, really cool. Going to how it feels in my hand, it's phenomenal. It's no different between the S10 Plus or the S9 Plus. It's very, very similar, so if you're coming from one of those phones, you really won't see much of a difference other than the size, considering it's smaller than any of those devices, but it feels great, especially for a bigger phone. Now, obviously, if you're looking for ultimate grip, you're not going to get the biggest phone out there. The one issue that I had is typing. So the keyboard shows up really low to the screen, so I kind of have to scrunch my fingers up at the bottom, and I almost feel like I'm going to drop the phone half the time, or it'll slip out of my hands. It works. That's not as much of an issue when I have a case on though. So if you have a case like this one, this encased case over here, it widens the grip a little more so that I can actually type a little bit better. Battery life now. Battery life on this thing is phenomenal. I am so impressed with this thing. Quite often I charge my watch, like I said, or my buds on this phone, and I will still go through the whole day without needing a single charge, including navigation. On average, I get between 9 to 10 hours of screen on time, which is an industry, it's well above industry standard. So if battery life is important to you, this is definitely the phone to choose. Another thing about the phone, and something that I can relate to on the S10, is the fingerprint sensor. The in-screen fingerprint sensor, it's ultrasonic. I mean, that's amazing. It's such a marvel in technology. But I want to be completely straight with you guys, it's nowhere near reliable. I've gotten probably 60% of reliability out of the thing. I always keep facial recognition on. I've tried every single tweak that Unbox Therapy has put out there, or any other person that has put out there, and it's maybe increased it by about 10 or 15%. However, the capacitive touch over here is way, way better. So if that's something that's important to you, S10e. Unfortunately, you kind of have to go with the littlest of the bunch. But I'm sure it might be a software thing, and over time they will improve on that. If it's a hardware thing, well, just wait for the next Galaxy S series. S series? Yeah, S series. Okay. So now to wrap things up here, we've got all three. I've given you a comparison between the three. To be completely straight with you guys, in terms of the S10, I don't think there's much going for the middle one. I think we can just put that aside and say, if you were actually looking at either of these, I would say either bite the bullet and go with the S10 Plus or go with the S10e. You're saving yourself a lot of money getting the S10e if this is something that fills your needs. And the S10 Plus really does pack a punch for its size.